guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about how to set up your own medical coding study group. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so if you are in a school and in this school you maybe are not learning too well from the teacher's going too fast, maybe they're not available for questions, or maybe you just want to make sure that you're really understanding and you want somebody to reinforce your learning. So maybe you want to form a study group. Here are some things that you ought to know when you set up a study group, all right? When you're setting up a study group, you can't just have just anybody in your study group. You want to make sure that the people that you ask, hey, do you want to be in a study group with me? I'm thinking of making a study group. Would you like to join my study group? Make sure that they are on the same path as you. When I was in medical coding school, one of the things that, of course, you do is like, okay, who else knows this? Who else doesn't know this? And can you help me? Because we're all stuck together in the same boat. So what happens is, you find out really quickly if people are going to be not so engaged in the studying and they just want to sit there and complain, or you find other people who are really engaged in the study and they want to learn. So when you're looking around at your classmates, try to find out who's really engaged and who really wants to do this, and make sure that you show that you are serious as well. And you want to look for other serious people, because it takes one person to derail a whole group, okay? And it's very easy for that person to distract everybody, to start complaining about, oh, the teacher and this and the teacher that, and I don't understand this, and I'm never gonna get this, or I heard this from this Facebook study group or whatever. You gotta be careful with those Facebook groups, guys, okay? I'm just saying. But the thing that you have to do is make sure that this person is serious. And you wanna keep this group small. You want there to be no more than 3 or 4 people other than yourself in this group, because these people need to be as committed as you when it comes to understanding the material. Yes, you can learn the material on your own. You can learn this on your own, but it is great to have other people with you, but it is not necessary. Okay, I will say that. So if you don't have other people around you, don't panic, okay? This is just for those who want to set up because they're in an area where they have other people and they want to do this, but they don't know how to set it up. One person is going to need to have a Zoom account. Now, there is the free version, I think, on Zoom still, I think. But Zoom or Google Meet or any of those things is what you want to use for everybody to be able to link up together, okay? And so that way y'all all can meet at a designated time. Pick a day during the week, one day out of the week, and it could be for 1 hour, okay? Something that is going to be reasonable for everybody, you know, depending on where you are, reasonable for everybody's schedule, even if it's on a Saturday, that you meet on a Saturday. And make sure that everybody knows that they need to be accountable for this time. Not somebody who's going to join in willy-nilly or be late all the time or not show up or not be engaged. There is another YouTuber out there named Brian Quee. He is a medical coding geek. He talked about study groups before and how hard it is sometimes with these study groups, because you get some people who don't want to ask questions when you're in a study group. That's the whole thing about study groups, is again, having people to ask questions to each other. And if you don't understand something, this is why I say to, when you do get this 3 or 4 people involved and you say, okay, we're going to meet every Saturday at 1 o'clock. And everybody's like, okay, cool, I'm on board. Or if they say, well, no, I have a soccer game on this day, can we make it a little bit later? And if everybody agrees, then great. Okay. And then you say, okay, everybody make a list of the things that we understand and what we don't understand. And so that way we can sort of compare notes. Okay, so you understand how to do OBGYN coding, okay, but I don't understand how to do OBGYN coding. That may be a topic for us to discuss when we're in our study group. So maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes of that can be devoted to just explaining what I understand about OBGYN coding so that everybody else in the group understands. Everybody needs to contribute something to the group. Whether it is that you all say, okay, well, I understand OBGYN, but I don't understand E&M. So another person says, well, I understand E&M, or I understand a certain part about E&M, and I can explain what I know. That's another part of the study group, another 20 minutes. So somebody needs to keep everybody on task. There needs to be one leader. And it's not that, we're just going to move on to the next business or whatever. You need to make sure that you communicate with everybody. And doing this now will also prepare you for the future. When you do have to give classes and things like that, when you have to talk to your providers, don't panic. I know some of you just panicked. Don't panic. You will get to a point as a medical coder where it is necessary for you to train your providers. But it does come with time and experience. Sometimes it comes right away, but you will be prepared, guys. Don't worry about that. Don't let that be the one thing that makes you panic, okay? But this is going to develop your communication skills if you get into this group and you decide, okay, these are the topics we want to talk about, okay? So maybe on the first meeting, everybody makes this list so they can compare notes of like what you get and what you don't get. And if everybody doesn't understand the same thing, then that's when you can either call in a tutor or call in a mentor, somebody who can explain it to all of you. Now, people have asked me before, do you do group tutoring sessions? I have never done group tutoring, but I do have a study hall group that I do run every month on my Patreon channel. Okay, Patreon, if you don't know, is a lot like YouTube. And the minimum pledge right now is $10 per month. And you get access to all of the coding quizzes and all of the videos that I post on Patreon. And again, the link for my Patreon channel is in the description box below. But we meet once a month on a Saturday, usually a Saturday. I've been giving people an opportunity to have 3 different times that, whichever time is most convenient for everybody. And they vote, and then I send out the Zoom link. And what we do is people will come in with their questions, whatever they're confused on. Sometimes they're already working in the field and they say, well, Blue, I don't understand about integumentary system coding, or I don't understand about modifiers. And I will sit there and explain. And sometimes it's students like, Blue, I don't understand E&M. Can you help me with this part? And I'm like, sure, whatever. And so this goes on for about an hour or so. Sometimes I run over a little bit because we get into deeper into the conversation. But I will have my books, and that's another thing. When you're doing a study group, make sure everybody has their books and their materials. Make sure that they are in a place where they can concentrate on what you're saying. If there's dogs and, kids yelling and things like that, that person may not be preparing themselves as well. And so to have somebody like that in the group, they need to make sure that they understand that during this time, this 1 hour, we have to be able to focus on this. And we need to be able to make sure that there's no other noise and things like that going on. So once they're able to devote time to that, then maybe they can join the study group again. But be very particular about the time that you spend, because this is either going to reinforce what you've learned or it's going to frustrate you. Either way, you have to make sure that you understand that what you put into a study group is what you're going to get out of it, okay? Now, people may not understand how to ask the question. I've had this happen in my study groups before. My study hall is what I call it. I've had them where they don't quite know how to how to ask the question, whatever it is that's confusing them. So what I ask them is, please tell me, what is it that you know? And so that way we can get to the root of the problem. Or what is it that you're thinking is this, what does this mean? As far as like the procedure goes, or the evaluation and management level, explain to me what you think, and then that way I can identify the problem, okay? So that can be very helpful, all right? When you can, like, okay, this is what I think it is, right? But in your study group, make sure that there's somebody like that that can keep everybody on track, that can keep everybody in line as far as like not straying too far from the subject at hand, and again, keep the complaining to a minimum as far as like, well, our teacher's not teaching us and I'm just so tired of him or her and blah, blah, blah. That there's no time for that. That 1 hour is for you all to study, okay? And it's for you all to grow and develop together, all right? And so that way you learn from each other. And if you have a tip, or there's something that you found, or there's something that you've learned from, or whatever the case may be, share it in the group So that way everybody can get something out of that time together, okay? But like I said, if you want to join Patreon, again, we have our study hall coming up. The study hall is going to be on the 20th. So next week, next week, it will be on at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 4 p.m. if you're on the Pacific Coast, and 7 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. But you can get that invite if you join my Patreon channel. But again, it's a fun way to just sort of get together and everybody's in the same boat, and it makes you feel supported because you're there to encourage each other and you're there to figure out, okay, now I understand, now I get it. But make sure that you're setting yourselves up for success, bringing your books, bringing material that is from a reputable resource, not just an AAPC blog where they're, doing the questions and they're doing the answers. Not something from there, but something, not that they have all wrong answers, but you always want to start developing those good habits of finding references and resources that are from reputable places, okay? Like the manuals, or like from CPT Assistant or the Coding Clinic or any of those things. Those are where you want to start getting your information from, not some discussion board, okay? That's what I was trying to think of, not blog, but the discussion board. You want to make sure that you start getting those reputable resources that way, because referencing a discussion board is not going to get you very far if you end up in an audit, okay? So you just want to make sure that you know that right out of the gate. But study groups can be great, guys, but you just have to make sure that everybody's on the same page as you. What are your goals, right? Does everybody want to get their certification? Absolutely. Do you want to get out there and start working? Yes. But if you have somebody who says, well, I heard this and I heard that, somebody that's really negative, that's not somebody that you want in your group, okay? Because that negative energy can fester real quick, and you don't want that. You want everybody, again, to be on the same page. There's going to be a lot of naysayers out there. And again, naysayers may infiltrate your study group. But you want to make sure that you are on guard at all times. Do not let anybody else's negativity get to you. This is hard. This medical coding, studying medical coding, is not easy. It is not easy. It's not fast. It's not quick. And it does not discriminate when it comes to, oh, well, I'm a nurse, so I should know all of this. No. Nurses struggle too. Nurses struggle. Doctors struggle. People who study medical billing and coding understand after a while, oh yeah, this is not like what I thought it was going to be, okay? And it is no insult on your intelligence. It's just that we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. Not only that, we have guidelines that we have to know. Then there's rules with the insurance company that we have to understand, okay? Because every insurance company has different rules, all right? But again, something further down the line for you to discover later. But in these study groups, these can be wonderful ways of reinforcing what you learned, because the best way to learn something is to be able to teach it back, right? That's the best way to be able to retain anything. And it may take somebody else explaining it other than your teacher, other than somebody else, okay? But maybe one of your fellow students can get how to say it to you so that you can understand. And then you're like, oh, now I get it. And that energy reciprocates, okay? It just is going to come back to you because you're going to understand, and then it's going to lead you to understand something else. It's going to lead you to understand something else. And if you don't have anything as far as knowledge-wise to contribute at that moment for that group that you're in, it's okay, guys. Because again, we're all learning. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school, okay? So it's okay if you don't know things right away. But if your talent is, okay, bringing everybody back into the subject, then that's what you do in that group. But you speak up because you want to make sure that you're always engaged in these groups. That's the way for these groups to be successful, is by people contributing what they know, people contributing some kind of talent, all right? And being mindful of how they are saying things as far as like, okay, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, and you know, keeping their emotions in check when they don't understand something. You know, sometimes people, when they don't understand something, it makes them very edgy and it gets them very frustrated. And while I understand that sometimes it's just a matter of taking a different point of view, and if somebody else in that group can say, well, this is the way I studied it, and then they explain and they're like, oh, okay, let me try this. You know, that may be a better way for you, okay? But I will say this to wrap this up. Don't get dependent on these groups, and don't feel disappointed if these groups fall through, okay? Again, we are all adults, and we're going to make time for the things that are most important to us, right? And if this is something that people don't feel as engaged, or they're feeling sort of defeated on because they don't really understand, and everybody else in the group is just like, well, you know, and that's when it's like, you got to watch those complaints, okay? But it may not work out. It may be where everybody's just like sort of waiting for somebody else to say something, and they're not willing to contribute, okay? So that may happen. And it may be where, you know, maybe it's too early on in the game, or maybe it's too, you know, they've already checked out basically, and they're just sort of going through the motions. But just, again, make sure that who you ask is somebody that you've observed to be very engaged. And again, try to keep the groups small, 2 to 3 people, 4 people max, including yourself. That'd be 5, you know. But just try to keep them small, so that way you can bounce ideas off of each other, and everybody feels like they have a say in that 1 hour that they meet. And it's important that if you do these study groups, that you make sure that everybody understands. It's important for everybody to show up for these meetings. Show up and participate in these meetings, because the more participation, the better off you'll be, okay? So that's just something that you ought to know when you're doing these groups. But study groups can be very good. But again, it's going to take one person to be the leader, one person to keep everybody in check. And the person who's leading may not be the person to keep everybody in check. Hey guys, we spent a couple of minutes already here complaining. Let's, you know, put it to bed. Let's keep going, you know. And then maybe, you know, like I said, when you're discovering your lists of what you understand, what you don't understand, and it may be that, okay, well, this person is struggling with medical terminology. How did you learn medical terminology? Oh, well, I watched Crash Course videos, right? Crash Course is a channel on YouTube that I really love. And they have anatomy and medical terminology and things like that. So that's something that you may want to check out. And you may, you know, recommend to them that they can do that as well, okay? But it's just a matter of like, okay, guys. And then you may have one person in the group who's the cheerleader, and that person who keeps everybody motivated and keeps them accountable. Guys, we got to be here. We've got to do this, and let's focus. And if we want to talk about 3 topics, 20 minutes each during this 1 hour, that's a good thing, because too many topics, then it's going to be like, okay, then, you know, it's too much. It's too much for one group. But if we stay on 3 topics, that's 20 minutes a topic, and that's going to give us plenty of time to be able to focus on something, and okay, now we understand. Okay, so again, a lot of benefit can come out of these groups, but again, your group is what you make of it. Okay, and again, you can, if you want to join my study group, there's a study hall that's coming up. The link for my Patreon channel is in the description box below. If you want to sign up for 1 month and that's it, that is totally fine, guys. But those funds go to furthering my education, just so you guys know. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But I hope that you all learn that you have to use discipline as well in your own right. Okay, you can't just be dependent on the study group. Okay, you have to make sure that you all are putting in those 20 hours per week, and then that extra 1 hour of reinforcing what you know and teaching it back. And that's a good thing, guys, because that can help you so much further along than any other thing I could think of other than putting in the time with these books. So that's just my advice anyway. But if this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.